But a lot of times I felt like the jobs is taking away our time to really discover our child. We have to learn our children as our children is going to learn us.
Hey, what's going on? You're now in with the Lion and the Lambo podcast, and this is your host, Lionel Mosby Jr. You know what we talk about here is biblical entrepreneurship, true impact, and true success. And I got a special guest on today. I don't only have an entrepreneur on, I have a parentpreneur on today on the podcast. What's up, Sevon Williams? How you doing today, man?
Blessed. It's a blessing to be on the podcast with you. I'm happy to be here and a lot of information to be able to share. I think we're going to impact a lot of people with this podcast episode.
Man, I think so too. You know, I just seeing some of the things that you're doing and not just what you're doing out in the spaces in the world, but the reality is what you're doing with your family, right? And I think that's such a big thing. You know, a lot of entrepreneurs, it's like they're going in different directions, but it seems like there's a competition between their time and their family time, right?
Family time.
I love how you're like, man, you're making this thing all together with this. Can you just explain what is a parentpreneur, by the way? Can you explain what that is?
I'm glad you asked that question. So the basis of a parentpreneur is a parent first. Like you said, most entrepreneurs, obviously, it's always going to be sacrifice. But most times for entrepreneurs, the family is the one that you have to sacrifice your family time.
Right.
As a parentpreneur, the parent comes first, meaning I'm a parent at all times. When I travel for business ventures, success, my son is with me. You know, when I'm doing things, whether it might be a Zoom call or I might be doing a workshop, or even if I'm doing one-on-ones with some of my clients and their children come in the room, I always advise them like, it's okay. No matter the age, I understand. Because most times when we on the phone, what's the first thing we do to our child? Hey, you know, keep it down. I'm on the phone, or stay out the room, you know, and I want them to include your children with what you're doing so they can understand what it is that you're doing, whether it's paying bills or whether it's handling business, whether we have to go somewhere. My biggest thing as a parentpreneur is bringing the parents and the children together, whether it's to start a business together or, you know, just always interacting with your children so they know that, you know, there's more than one option. There's a lot of exposure that we can provide for our children being a parentpreneur. So you don't necessarily have to be an entrepreneur. However, you can just be an aspiring entrepreneur that's a parent, and then you're a parentpreneur. Because at the end of the day, we want financial freedom to be able to spend more time with our family.
Right. No, yes, that makes great sense, you know. And it's as you're talking about, it's like, man, the thoughts just like jumping into my mind. So I'm thinking, you know, we kind of do a disservice to our children, right? Because they're not a part of understanding the full process. I even think about, you know, and some people are going to say, well, Lionel, I'm still going to do this. But Christmas, for example, right? A lot of times in terms of Christmas, when I really realized what the situation was, I told my mom, I'm like, I have no idea why you would ever give credit to an old white man coming down a chimney, you know what I'm saying? When you're putting in all this work in order to actually provide. That puts me as a child, right? As a youth, as a teenager, as a young adult, in a different position and mindset to understand what it took for her to do this for me, right? I have more appreciation, not just for her, but for the things that she then provides, right? And so I feel like we do a disservice to our own selves. The things that we want for our kids is like, we're not actually preparing them for it because we keep them out of a lot of these conversations. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
Do you kind of feel the same way?
I would say a lot of things as an entrepreneur, you know, we are doing everything to provide. Even if we're working 2 or 3 jobs, we sacrificing this time to provide for our family. However, in our children's eyes, the only thing that's really important is the time that we spend with them. Nipsey Hussle once said, you're only as happy as your saddest child. So if we spending all this time away, working within our business, we's providing, but we're not there. So the child doesn't care about how much money or what they have. They want their father, they want their mother to be around at those special events. They want them to be around to read them a bedtime story. They want them to be around to show them how to cook and things of that nature. So like I said, being a parentpreneur, the main thing is interacting with your child in your everyday life. So they can understand, they'll be a little bit more advanced and they'll understand why you're making some of the sacrifices. Yes, sir.
Man, you're only as happy as your saddest child. Fire. That's so important though. When you think about it, like what you're saying, it's the time. And so bringing it, and it's really the whole context of this podcast is the fact of biblical entrepreneurship of showing people that, hey, ministry and business don't have to be separated. They really, not only can they be combined, they should be combined. They are more powerful when they're combined. And it's like you're saying the exact same thing in a mindset that we have sometimes as entrepreneurs or even as parents, right? Is, okay, I got to do this thing, right? And so I have to separate, not to say that you don't need specific times that you have to have focus, right? Energy. Absolutely. But in the general scheme of things, like you don't have to have these things separated. You can actually put these things together. And when I think about parentpreneur, and another thought process that comes to my mind is the fact that as an entrepreneur, you have to be creative. You have to, you have to think outside the box, right? I was on a brother Kashif Kennedy's podcast. He has the Creative Or You podcast. He just talk about how everybody is creative, right? And, the point that I started thinking about, man, as a parent, you got to be really creative to be in your kid's life and to like really connect with them, right? Like you just can't, you got to pay attention. You got to see the up and it's just like running the business, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. You got to see the unseen. And know
what's going on. Absolutely. You got to see the unseen. And so you have to be an entrepreneur in your family as a parent, right? Just as a parent, not even talk about business, but as a parent, you got to be an entrepreneur, right? You know what I'm saying? Because Absolutely. You have to see the ability, you have to see the weaknesses, the strengths, the opportunities your kids have, the threats that are around. You got to notice those things, right? You know what I mean? So you can truly help them to grow. And I think that's what you've been doing with success and how all of these things have started to flow out of your family because of what you're seeing through your son.
Absolutely. I would say that it's important, and I'm glad that you said like paying attention to what our children's strengths and weaknesses are. So my family, my brother-in-law, he has a Super Bowl ring. My sister, she played overseas in basketball. My other sister played basketball for Georgia Tech. So I have my cousin is Cam Newton. So I have a long family that's deep in sports. But for me, I'm not pressing success to be like, okay, we going straight to sports. I want to see what it is that he enjoyed first. Just like I told you in regards to the clothing brand. If he didn't like taking pictures, then I wouldn't necessarily went the clothing brand route. Because it's like, instead of modeling other people's clothes, why not model your own brand? But if we realize if our children like to draw, then they may be an artist. They may become a painter or something like that. It just takes the time for us to focus on what it is that they actually enjoy doing. One thing that I notice now, Success loves airplanes, maybe because he took a lot of flights, but he's literally on his phone, not on his phone, on his tablet, watching like airplanes just flying up, and he's always talking about airplanes. So with that being in mind, we got him a spoiler alert. For his birthday is 4 days before Christmas, so we got him a airplane thing that he can ride for his birthday. So I know he's gonna be excited about it. But a lot of times I felt like the jobs is taking away our time to really discover our child. We have to learn our children as our children is gonna learn us.
That's a very good point. No, that's a great point. And how old is your son Success right now?
2. So he'll be turning 3 December 21st.
That's awesome because I just want to kind of go back, right? Because I always think about the story of Enoch when I think about a father, right, who had this son, and then his experience just like eyes open, right? And if somebody's out there watching, right, you may not be familiar, right? Enoch, right, is an individual in the scriptures who, when you see he had a son, the next thing the scripture says, like, and Enoch walked with God and he was not. Like God literally, right, took him straight to heaven because his experience with God after he had his son, like something changed in that experience. And so I can see that in your life, your experience, right? That was kind of seems like there was a shift. So can you kind of walk us down and explain to us maybe, what was your mindset and thought process before, right? Maybe coming up in your earlier years in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of business, right? Where did this mindset of getting into business or entrepreneurship come from?
So in regards to entrepreneurship, I would say even before I even knew what an entrepreneur was, I was always an entrepreneur. Dating back to like high school where I would be selling my shoes. For one, I was a consumer first. So I was a big Jordan head. I was a sneaker head. I would get collections of everything, meaning like snapbacks. When the snapbacks hats came out, I got like 25 of them. And then like Jordans, I remember at one time I had like 48 pair of Jordans, and my mom used to tell me, and now I was working at the airport. So I was getting my own money, but I was just spending it, consuming, getting more shoes. And she would say, you only got 2 feet. Like you only can wear one pair at a time. And then after a while, it was like, you know what? She right. So then I literally started selling my shoes. And then some of the shoes I didn't even wear, and I was making back more than I even spent on the shoes. So even if thinking about my first place that I ever stayed in, I had a pair of Red October Yeezys that I sold for $3,000. I took that money and then went and got a place downtown. So my wife at this point, at that time, obviously she was my girlfriend, to move downtown with me. I was probably one of the only ones. I think I was around 19, 20 years old living in downtown Atlanta, like skyline and everything in a brand new build. So I've always had the not the investor, but the entrepreneur spirit. But in regards to financial literacy, just as most people know, when you're credit bad, everything is expensive. So I just got tired of, trying to ask somebody like, hey, and like going back, yes, that place that I was in initially, I got in credit card debt. So when it was time to move, now it's like, oh, I need a cosigner. Oh, and now I'm still in school at the time. So I was working 2 jobs and trying to juggle school. But it's like, okay, financial literacy wasn't something that was super, like, harped on in my household. My mom tried her best to teach me. She taught me about entrepreneurship. She also gave me exposure. Like I traveled different places, but understanding credit, that was things I had to learn on my own. Gotcha. So once I learned it, I fixed my credit, I fixed my wife's credit, my sister's credit. Then I'm like, okay, well, I can do this. I started saying, you know what? This is going to be important for me to help my community. At the time, I wasn't thinking about parents. I'm just thinking it's important for me to help my community. So I started helping others. And then I was working at Social Security Administration in Kansas City. I realized so many of the parents, young parents that was coming in, they lack financial literacy. They lacked a lot of things that would be important in their child's life. So I just somewhat brought 2 and 2 together. Once I understood that, okay, I know I can help others with this information, I just said, how can I bridge the gap and not only educate the children, but I want to educate the parents, because the children is actually looking up to the parents. Like whether the parents know we are the role model, you are the role model for your child. So they looking at whatever it is that you doing, whether you know it or not. So if I can educate the parents, then the parents is going to pass that information down to the children, or it is our duty to pass the information down to our children. Oftentimes, if we don't have the time to do so, that's where your child might grow up older and now they having to figure it out. And, when you're figuring things out, that's based off of trial and error. So we just want to somewhat use the parents as a springboard to help, bridge the gap between what we didn't know when we were younger. Our children is not going to say, hey, I didn't know that. If I would have known this sooner, I would have made better decisions.
Right. Right. No, that makes sense. Now you said that you went out and got that apartment downtown. How old were you when you were at the point where you said, "All right, I need to fix my credit"? Like, how long ago was that?
So this probably was 3 years ago. So 26. So I got the apartment downtown, and I had other apartments since then. So my credit wasn't bad then. I would say I just turned 29. So I probably was around 25, 26-ish. Like 25,
So
26, where I'm like, okay.
3 to 4 years, right?
Correct.
Between then and now. And you've seen a drastic change, not just in you. And I guess I'm just saying that to frame it too, as far as there's so many people who, there's a group of people who think that, okay, I'm going to snap my finger, it's going to happen overnight. No, that's not reality.
No, sir.
But then there's another group of people who think it has to take forever, right? And I just want them to understand, right? Like in 3 to 4 years, not only did you get yourself out of bad credit, or as my friend Regina Woodward would say, bruised credit, right? But you also help family, and then you started to be able to help other people by simply teaching them the things that you went through to deal with your own stuff, right?
Correct. It was more so at first, it's like, okay, let me get my stuff together. Then it's like, okay, well, I can do that. Or, I can remove these collections. Okay, well, let me work on my wife. Well, my fiance. Okay, let me check out my sister. And then so it's like, okay, I know. Then I realized this is a big problem that not only we are dealing with. A lot of times I feel like, just as a human perspective, we feel like we the only ones dealing with these situations, and we might be embarrassed to ask for help. I always say in regards to financial literacy, if you need credit help, the biggest issue is pride, putting the pride to the side and just asking for help. Because it doesn't take 3 to 4 years. 3 to 4 years is from where I am now. I literally fixed my credit from, it was bad. It was like a 489 and went up to a 760. That was within about 7 months. And then my fiance at the time, I fixed her. She was like 500. She's up to 750. That was within like 3 months. So it's not, every credit report is different. So it depends on what needs to be done, whether you got late payments or whether you got collections. Like I said, in regards to what I know now, learning the USC laws and how to be able to utilize the law to get removals, and understanding that if you don't know, like, permissible purpose, if we haven't given written consent for them to report to your consumer report, then it can be removed. Understanding how to factual dispute. When you're looking at the credit report from all 3 credit bureaus, if it's showing an open date of January 1st for Experian, and then you go on TransUnion and it's saying an open date of January 17th. It's no way that one account can be open on 2 different days. Right. And according to USC code 1681 EB, they have to provide maximum accuracy across all 3 bureaus. So if it's not identically the same, then that can be disputed and removed. So these are things that I've learned. And when you say it has to be the same
across all 3 bureaus,
exactly.
So you're saying if one of the bureaus has the information off, then does that only affect that particular agency, or does that then affect all 3 agencies though?
So that's how you can get either a collection or a late payment. That's how you get it removed. Yes, sir.
I gotta get me the 808, or like, you know what I'm saying? I gotta get my system together so I can drop some bombs on this podcast, because that right there was crazy. But anyway, I'm not gonna cut you off. Keep going.
No. So, and that's something, and this is what I'm saying, things that I've learned over time. I didn't even know that initially when I was working on mine. But now that obviously I have a credit repair business, a financial consulting business, I'm always a student. So I'm always learning new things. Credit is always changing. Some of the previous trade lines that they might have been issuing out is no longer working. So you always have to be a student. But that's why I am the father of success. But being the father of success or being a parent, we always have to be learning. Like I said, whether it's learning our child, and when I came out with the Success Don't Sleep brand, success was very small, 3-4 months old. And he literally, as a parent, I'm sure that a lot of us know our children wake up at any time of the night, and we have to be there to console them. So we not getting much sleep. So when he was sleeping, that's when I was either on YouTube or reading books, doing courses. So my I was thinking long-term gratification. If I read this many books in 10 years, I'm gonna be at the point where I want to be. Success don't sleep. Once we reach one goal, we just write more down. We satisfied. We are, I always say, I'm grateful but never satisfied. So I'm grateful to be able to accomplish a goal, but okay, I got mine fixed. Now I can help my sister. Now I can help my neighbor. It's always somebody else that we can help or reach out and lend a helping hand to. And that's how I tied that together. It just so happened that, my son is Success and he wasn't sleeping when he was young. So, yes, sir.
Success don't sleep. You know what I mean? So, and that's why I love, that's why, man, I always tell everybody I love the moniker of biblical entrepreneurship, because everything is like, when I just hear, these success stories, when I hear people talking about, what they've done in different business lines and industries, man, so many principles just like start flashing across my mind. And I'm like, this is exactly like Jesus talking to the demoniac and he heals him. And then he says, I want to go. No, go and tell everybody else what I've done for you. And this is the same thing, right? Like, this is how business happens. When you think about that person who creates that great burger that you love, man, they probably started making a burger for themselves because they said, you know what, I don't want to go spend money out, right? But that's how they create the burger. Then they start sharing it with everybody else, right? Just like how you talking about, you fixed your own credit, then you turned around, helped somebody else. This is just how it happens, right? And so if there's somebody out there, because I hear people all the time say, I don't know what my gift is. I don't know what my talent is. I don't know what my skill is. The reality is, look and peer and understand your life. What do you have going on? You have many things going on. You have many things that you're so good. That's some things you're so good at. You don't even look at them as a skill.
As a skill.
Or a gift. Simply because you do it so well. But that thing that you do that you can tell somebody else so easy, that you can teach somebody else, that's your thing, man. Like, that's your thing. Go ahead.
So I was going to say one thing that you just stated in regards to that biblical principle. I tell entrepreneurs where they're getting business consulting, testimonials is key. So yes, once you've done something for somebody, get a testimonial, a video testimonial, a video testimonial, so they can tell others, and you use that as ads to bring you more business. But obviously you have to make sure everything is with integrity. So you actually did what they're saying that you're doing.
Right.
However, that goes pretty much hand in hand together. So in regards to getting video testimonials, because a lot of times, the screenshots and the text messages are great. And that's good if people is, using word of mouth. But it's something about those video testimonials that can increase your sales and help as a lead generator for your business. So for our entrepreneurs that might be somewhat blocked, you may have a lot of results, but trying to figure out why you can't get more clients, go back to some of those clients that you may have had, results with, and just ask them, hey, can you share about your experience? Could you share could you provide some feedback on how it was working with me? A lot of times it's just about asking. We be so scared to ask somebody of something, or, we feel like that we are selling. It's like, no, if I provided value by you providing me a testimonial, now I can provide more value to more people.
Yeah.
So we have to just think of it in that perspective, I would say. But I just wanted to go say that as well, because that's hand in hand.
Yeah, and even that end point that you made, right? Like, we're doing this because I need this in order to provide value to more people, right? Like, it's not just about me. you sharing a testimony is going to help somebody else, right? People overcome, right? Revelation 12:11, they overcome through the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, right? The testimonies are so powerful. So we got to get the testimonials, man, and we can't be afraid to go and ask for them. Now I want to ask you, because you went to the financial literacy, so I want to kind of understand when you first had your first financial literacy client, right? Because I know you work with your family, you know what I mean? But can you kind of give us the story of that first individual that was outside of your own home, right? Outside of your own circle that you first worked with, and kind of how that experience was, and how it was to then move from I help myself, I help my wife, I help my family, to now I'm helping somebody else, but I'm also going to charge them for it. Like, can you kind of walk us through like that experience, that mindset shift for you too as well?
Absolutely. Well, so again, I was working at Social Security for the Social Security Administration. Right. So I understand I knew how impactful credit was. Obviously, being able to see some of the changes where we go from driving a Toyota, and the car insurance, not the car insurance, but the car payment with our Toyota was pretty much the same price as it is with our Benz now. So like I knew it can change people's lives just depending on what your credit score is. Crazy. But honestly, I actually was reaching out to more people, telling them like my friends, hey, I do if you got any issues, student loans, whatever the case may be. I just wanted to get more clients. I wanted to see other credit reports. You know, I'll do yours for free. But they wasn't like responding to me, or they wasn't taking me up on the offer. They would say like, okay, but then they would never follow up. Okay, I'm gonna get the information and send it to you. So then I just put it on Facebook. Hey, today I'm taking 5 clients or if you need some collections removed out your credit report, inbox me now. And then I had like 20 people messaging me. No, actually the first day I only had 2 people. So I went ahead and I started working with them. However, the next day, I think I posted it again. I had like 20 people responding. And then within like a week or two, I was able to get collections off. And then they started posting on Facebook. And then like they just, the masses started coming in from there. And it's like, okay. I remember when I had my first client and they were sharing like the results, I'm like, okay, I'm in this for the long run. It's like no backing out now. It's like, okay, this is serious. But like I said, I was already dealing with people's Social Security numbers because I was working at the Social Security office. So it kind of was hand in hand for me.
So what was that one story then, like that one client maybe that you work with that really helped you to see like, man, this is because and let me frame and preface it so you can understand right where the question comes from. Because again, like I say, one of the big reasons for the podcast is that I want people to understand that ministry and business can go hand in hand, right? And when people think about ministry, a lot of times they only think about preaching from a desk, right? Or sharing in a Bible study or something like that, right? But when we impact the world through whatever God has, given us to do, like that's ministry. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So I'm asking that's to frame it, right? To say, what is that kind of one situation in client? And of course, you don't have to say their name and all that, right? But maybe that one situation where you really realize, like, wow, I'm really ministering to people through this business because this person that was at this point and now has turned around and told me, like, hey, Sevon, like, I'm here now because of what you just did for me.
Absolutely. I'm not gonna say the client's name because I know her. I know her personally. So we went to high school together. But she reached out to me saying that she needed some help with her, and this was like early on. But she reached out to me saying that she needed some help with her credit. She just moved back in with her parents. She had 2 daughters of her own, and she was going through domestic violence issue or situation previously. So, she was on hard times. Her goal was to be able to have her own home for her daughters. So not only obviously did I take her as a client, initially it got to a point where it's like, you know what? I want you to win so much, and I care so much about you and your daughters that I know it's tough for you right now. I'm gonna just bring you on my team so you can meet other entrepreneurs, so you can learn other things. And then I realized that she actually was more knowledgeable in regards to insurance, and I was able to help her pull out some skills while working on her credit. And as of about 2 or 3 months ago, she got the keys to her first home. So her and her daughters now have their own home. I mean, I have a few different clients, whether it be, you know, they wanted a new car and now they got a new car, but no money down. You know, that's the importance of credit too. I always tell people it's not the great credit that we want. It's the things that the great credit brings. Like literally, I got married in Maui. So I got married in Hawaii, had a dream wedding. I wouldn't have been able to do that without having great credit. I wouldn't have been able to do that without knowing how to leverage my credit. So the five tickets that we bought, which was myself, my wife, my mom, and my dad. So 4 tickets to Maui was expensive. However, because we was utilizing those reward points, I probably only spent maybe $800 on all 4 flights.
Wow.
And literally the flights was about $800 a piece, maybe $756 a piece. And I only had to spend about $800 for 4 tickets because I was able
for the price. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just, I always say it's not just about when I have clients, I like to educate them on, okay, let's know what your goals are. If you want to start a business, maybe you want to start a business for your children. It's important for us to be able to get our credit together. Maybe you want to move into a home. Okay, why do you want to move into a home? Is it because you don't like the area you're currently living in? Maybe you're tired of paying rent. Maybe the school system that your children is currently in is a bad school system and you just want, you know, a lot of things we do are normally for somebody else. That's something that I realize, especially as a parent, we always doing something for somebody else. So it's like, I don't want to tell people, hey, get your credit fixed. It's like, no, once you get your credit fixed, now what it is that you truly want, you can literally go get that. You can literally devise a plan to say, okay, well, how can I get $80,000 from the bank? Or how am I able to get funded this much? How am I able to leverage my credit and understand that, hey, as long as I keep my personal utilization under 10%, you're going to be good. That's worth 30% of your credit score. So your utilization is 30% of your credit score. The payment history and paying your bills on time is 35% of your credit score. So that's 65% right there. That's the main things right there. So these are things that I educate my clients on. And then, like, if they want to get started in a churro business, I have entrepreneurs, you know, or business partners that massively killing in the churro or this in real estate. So it's like we try to develop more of a one-stop shop. We get the trust, we engage. Well, I engage with all of my clients. I want to get to know them personally. I may not know your child by name, but for majority of them, I know their children by name because I know that's really the driving factor behind whatever it is that they want.
Yes.
So even when it's like you say, it's a process, but every time they look at their child, they understand and like it's well worth it in the very end. I would have never told you in the beginning. Well, I probably would have said I was going to get married in Hawaii because I always say like things like this, kind of like outlandish. But I try my best to follow through on it. I didn't necessarily know how we was going to do it when I first originally said it. But once I understood, and it's like just making a plan.
That's awesome, man. So let me ask you, what is, when you say financial literacy, because for a lot of people, they hear that and, you know, their mind go all over the place, right? Can you kind of explain for the listener, what is financial literacy? What does that entail?
I would say that's not only knowing your finances, but understanding that it's loopholes. When we're talking about financial literacy, that's why it's not taught in the school systems. These are things that are the untaught. Either you know it, or the community that you're in, maybe the household, they taught you it, or if they didn't know it, it's no way for them to teach you it. So some of us are growing up, or, you know, going through life blinded. We're thinking just money, 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 or whatever the case may be, rather than understanding, hey, you know, developing that credit is super important, or just as important as getting the money, because we can leverage our credit to be able to get the money. We don't always have to utilize our own money. So financial literacy for me is understanding credit. I say credit is the foundation of financial literacy. So if you can understand credit, guess what? Even if you mess your credit up, you able to fix it. You're able, okay, I know why this happened. So it's like, for example, if you're looking at your child and they standing on the couch, you tell them to get down because you know what can happen. Now, if they was a little older and they got on the couch and they fell down, they would realize, okay, I know what, if I stay off the couch, I won't hurt myself. The same way with credit. Once you understand, hey, if I don't miss this payment, which could cause my credit score to drop 90 to 120 points, I'm not really going to hurt myself as much as if I just have one inquiry. If I understand that instead of me going to the car dealership and just signing off, and then they go to the back and they sending out those, they trying to get the car finance to 8 and 9 different banks. And let's say you have poor credit doing that. You might walk out of there with 8 inquiries and still have no car. So what do? You go to another car dealership. You still trying to get your problem that you had going into the dealership, you leaving out with bigger problems. Because now your credit score even going a little lower, and now you still don't have a car. Rather than if you have you can have a decent credit score, 690, 700 credit score, go to Navy Federal, go to, I don't even just want to say Navy Federal, PenFed, NIH, FCU. It's a lot of different credit unions that provide low interest, as well as it's only going to give you one inquiry. So that's why it's certainly important to understand credit as the foundation. Secondly, with financial literacy, we got to know our taxes. These are, like I said, it's loopholes, and especially if we're talking about as for entrepreneurs, you know, how are we able to write off our taxes? How are we able to, something as much as a wedding, be able to write it off? So I shot content and did the thing that I love about my brand, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but the thing that I love about my brand is surrounded around my real life. So it's like I kind of built it that way because I didn't want to be having to put a suit and tie on, not a suit and tie, nothing wrong with a suit and tie, but I didn't want to have to put a mask on every day to broadcast myself with the world. I love being with my son. I love being around my son. I love seeing things he learning. I love, you know, I learn things just from watching him. So I like to think like, oh man, this is a blessing, because I wasn't always able to be here right now. I was at work, and I used to always look out the window on a nice day like, man, I love to take success to a park right now. And now most of the time, if people look at my story on Instagram, me and Success is at the park. And I don't take these things for granted, because I know it's other parents that feel that way. So it's very important that we understand financial literacy, like I said, so we can pass this information down to our children, understanding business, taxes, credit, you know, the different loopholes in real estate. So it's not just necessarily me. I master in regards to credit and marketing your business or developing a niche. Who is your target audience? Who are you trying to attract? But if people had questions in regards to real estate investing or real estate, I would send to my business partner, Nadia Holiday. She's a licensed realtor in New York, and she's also has she's been in the stock market. She used to work on Wall Street back in 2009. So yeah. So I develop a team to where I don't have to know all the answers. And if I don't know the answers, I will tell my client, hey, I don't know that, but give me 1 second. I'm either going to put you on a call with an expert, or I can just call up one of my partners and I can get that information. So when developing a business, I say this as a parentpreneur. You know, an entrepreneur, raising a child and starting a business is the same thing. You're gonna need that support system. It's so important that you have people that you can not necessarily just depend on, but just rely on. Because as a parent, we need to be able to take a break sometimes. Like if grandma is available or whomever it is that you trust that's gonna not just drop your kids off with anybody, but that's gonna pay attention to them and teach them different things, where you're comfortable. It's like, okay, I know when he's with my mom, he gonna come back teaching me some new stuff that I might not have taught him. And now I'm like, okay, but at the same time, I may have been able to, get some type of work done or just spend some time with my wife, much needed time. So it's the same thing with a business. Let's say I'm good at marketing, but I'm not good at sales, or I'm not good at copywriting. Okay, we need to find us a copywriter. We might want to get somebody on the sales team. You need a graphic designer. It's okay to ask for help. I want if our listeners and our audience don't get anything from this episode, I want them to get it's okay to ask for help, because that help and that village, they say it takes a village. That's what's going to make a successful parentpreneur. Your child is going to feel the love as they have a village surrounding them, and your business will feel the love because you have a team working on, y'all have the same goals and values. So I always say, raising a child and starting a business is somewhat the same. You have to care for them the same. You're going to sacrifice, of course, but it's in the end, long-term gratification, it's always worth it.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense, man. And we definitely need a village. We definitely need a group of people around us to help in the parental world, and you definitely need a group around you to help in the entrepreneurship space, right? It's one and the same, and that's why I love it, right? I just love to see how so many things are connected. We try to compartmentalize stuff a lot of times, right? But they don't have to be, because at the end of the day, they can all work together. They can all work hand in hand. Now, I want to ask you, because you've been pushing the financial literacy. That's what you have been working on the last couple of years. But recently, right, you've been not just teaching financial literacy for parents, right? You know what I'm saying? But you are creating things so that people can be successful, like your son's success, right? So can you kind of explain and jump into that? Like, what was it that motivated you to actually to not just teach your son, right? Because he's 2, about to go on 3, right? To not just teach him at an early age, but then to actually then turn around and now say other parents may be able to benefit from this as well.
Okay, so I actually never told this story, but working at Social Security Administration, like especially when I was working in Atlanta. First, I was working in Kansas City. I wasn't in the field office. I was on the national line. So when people called in, that's when I realized I'm talking to people from California and all over, that maybe having children with disabilities, or they may be applying for disability, or they may be on low income, so on SSI. But once I got in the field office in Atlanta and I seen the people up close and personal, it's more, I would have a conversation with them. A lot of times we deem people as crazy, but until you get in front of people that really, got schizophrenia, and they'll have a conversation with you. It changes your mindset on a lot of things. But the things that I always noticed was, it always, like, people would tell me like something happened to them when they were younger, or it may be somebody that looked like it may be someone that looked like a former predator that would trigger these people and make them go crazy, or make them act out. That's the better word. Make them act out. So I always looked and I'm like, okay, so it always go back to parenting, or, what were their case growing up. It was so many people that was coming in young 17, 18-year-olds that was homeless. And it's like, and I would ask them, and they show me their ID. They from Texas. And I'm like, well, how you get out here? And they just start opening up and telling me different things. But I knew at that time, it's like, financial literacy, if they would have been taught this early on, they only been taught survival mode. And a lot of times
Right.
we just are moving off of survival. So I
Mm.
tied in, okay, everything goes back to how we were raised, whether we was raised by grandma, whether we was raised by our dad, our aunts, you know, good or bad, it comes down to how we were raised. Some people are raised on the streets, and we always deem that as such a bad thing, but some people don't have no other place to go. Like they literally was living on the streets at a young
Right.
age. So I didn't realize until I was working at the Atlanta Social Security office, the field office, that it's so many young people that are homeless and going through hard times. So I was dating back, and I'm thinking like, hey, if they were taught financial literacy at the age of 7 or growing up, even if they were on their own, they would be in a much better position to win because they could utilize the information that they learned growing up rather than just having to survive. They can use those strategies, leveraging their credit and things of that nature to put them in a different position. So I just kind of took all my different experiences and said, obviously, it was one thing for me to just teach my son, but then I thought about it, it's like, okay, by the time he going to school, and me and my wife go back and forth about it, because she's like, it's about time for him to go to school. And I'm like, I don't want him to go to school, Jesse. I'd rather homeschool him. But I had said, like, by the time he's 9, I want to have my own school. I want to teach other children. I want to be able to educate other children, educate all his friends. So that, like, that's a goal that I have for myself. So again, that's why I said, let me educate the parents, because it's much easier. Parents may not allow me to be around their children, understandable, you know, but if I can educate you, then you can educate your child, and then the children is going to talk amongst each other anyhow. So my goal is to have success educating others, the other children that may not be as fortunate.
Right. No, that's true. And it's like what you say, right? You know, I'm a realtor out here in Houston, Texas, right? That's my day job, right? And you'll be so shocked. Well, you wouldn't be shocked, but many people would be shocked, right? Of how many people there are who are financially illiterate, right? You know what I'm saying? Who don't know, who never made a budget, for example, right? Who don't know what their monthly expenses are, who are scared to look at their credit score, right?
Yes.
Scared
to go into the bank. Scared to ask questions.
Scared, right? You know, and so I remember I took this one class where they talked about how there was such a huge amount of individuals who would purchase houses through third-party owner financing because there are so many people who really just don't. It's not that they don't have the money. It's like they don't have the credit. They don't have the documentation, right? They don't have, you know, maybe the taxes haven't been filed on time. So many different stuff that have put them in a position where they can't go through the traditional route. And the more and more I've worked in this industry, the more I realize there's a huge amount of people, you know, that are in this. There's more people in those positions than there are in the regular traditional, I'm ready to buy a house the traditional way positions, right? And so when you are building something, or you're providing a service that now can help those people to bridge the gap between where they are and where they, like you say, desire to be. And many times their desire is not even just for themselves, but for those that are around them, their kids, right? Their families.
Their families, yes, sir.
That's powerful. You know what I'm saying? That's very powerful. And so I'm really excited about what you have going. Hey, I know you've been watching this episode, and I know you've been wondering, like, how can I impact the world as a biblical entrepreneur? Well, one way that you can impact the world as a biblical entrepreneur is to wear the uniform of biblical entrepreneurs, right? Look, we have designs for both men and women so that they can actually wear what they are and what they are becoming. So if you are a biblical entrepreneur, visit www.lionelmosby.com. That's www.lionelmosby.com, so you can get the merch that proves that you are about impacting the world. Let's get back to the episode. I'm definitely looking to, pop some kids out. I just got married, this past June.
Congrats. Yes, sir.
Not trying to do it too quick. right? But that is a future plan we have, right? And so I love some of the products that you're providing, for not just for children, but even for toddlers, right? Like, can you kind of go into some of the different things that you have created specifically for toddlers and parents to be able to then work together as they are working through these things?
Absolutely. So shout out to my wife, Jessica. She actually was the mastermind behind the Success is My Middle Name ebook. So like this ebook is it's a picture book, but it's based on a true story. So everything in there is true. It has, talking about his favorite color. So how it goes, I wish I could show an example, but the thing is, like I said, oftentimes we working so much, we leaving it up to the teachers or whomever, daycare, to teach our children things like colors and numbers, or we don't have the time to sit down and actually notice, their motor skills, notice things they may be struggling with or things that they really are good at. So we created a book based on the things that success likes. Like at the time, he was able to count to 10, or maybe even when we originally created the ebook, he was able to count to 10. So it says, Baby Sincere is able to count to 10. Can you do the same? So you're supposed to be with your child and have your child 1, 2, 3, 4, and seeing where they might mishap it. Then we have a picture of our dog in there because he likes Prince. Our dog name is Prince. So we have a picture. So we know children like pets as well. And he literally loves pets. We go to the park. It don't matter if it's a pit bull or what. He want to go up to it. And he is fearless. And that doesn't bother me because I want him to be, fearless, but at the same time move with caution. His mom is like, no.
That's the balance right there.
That's the good balance there. But so that was more so with the picture book. It's forced for you and your toddler, and I mean that can be as early as 10 months, 8 months to engage. Are you still there? Oh yeah. So it's even starting as early as 6 months, honestly, you and your toddler to be able to engage and showing them colors and showing them different things. And so the next step, once they know their numbers, which I just recently dropped, was the Father of Success added up flashcards. So this is addition flashcards. Obviously, as an entrepreneur, as a human being, we need to make sure that our checks is right. We need to make sure that we can count. Even there's a lot of athletes that, not saying that they don't know how to count, but they have somebody else counting their money, and then they realize after decades, I think Kevin Garnett, I love the big ticket. Kevin Garnett was one that said that his accountant stole $73 million from him. Now, obviously, if you're making so much, you're not gonna be looking hand in hand. But one thing that I've learned that we have issues with is counting, especially doing adding big numbers, multiplying big numbers. So it's important that we understand, we teaching our children, showing them the flashcards, and also on the flashcards, it's not like 2 + 2, and then it may have like 2 oranges. So we have different fruits and displays imagery to where the child can literally count and say, okay, if they know their numbers, and they may not know how to add yet, they can actually count the oranges. Okay, how many oranges? 1, 2. So this is 2 oranges. And how many bananas is it? And then they count, and it's 6 bananas. Okay, 6 + 2. So 6, 7, 8. Now they know 6 + 2 = 8. So just thinking of different ways that the parent, because again, unless your child is of age, and they've already been taught, it's more so for the parent or the guardian, the grandparent, the godparent, to be able to interact with the child. So you can, and I'm also going to be displaying like different quizzes, workbooks. I have some more products that's in store. But lastly, right now, what we have for the preteens, I would say anywhere from 12. Well, really, it could be teenagers, early teenagers too. The financial literacy flashcards. So going over with them and actually showing imagery of an asset. We have what the difference between needs and wants. understanding what, zoning is when we talking real estate. So that's the one word that I have for Z. Knowledge. What is knowledge? How do we apply knowledge? Fintech for all of those. It's in the crypto space and love Robinhood and everybody using Cash App. You using a fintech bank.
Right.
So I have a bit more advanced things on the financial literacy flashcards, as well as those come with imagery. And I'm gonna keep adding to those products as well. So everything is more so important for the parents to be working with the children, or working directly with the children. So we don't have to say, "Hey, we wish that public schools taught our children financial literacy." No, because we teach them. We're gonna teach them financial literacy, and we're gonna allow our children to teach their friends the things that we're teaching them. That's how we impact the community within. We don't have to necessarily wait on anybody or say what we wish they were doing. We're gonna take it upon ourselves to make sure that we're gonna get the results that we get, the results that we want and desire in the long run.
I love it, man, and I love it just from a business perspective, because it seems like all of these products that you're providing flowed out of your life, right? And that's the thing I love, you know what I mean? And I think you mentioned that before we jumped on, was you wanted to kind of create an environment or atmosphere to where that you didn't have to, and I don't know if you said that earlier or before we got on, but basically like you didn't want to have to like put on this mask at this period of time and go to work and come back, but you want to create something that's just a part of you. And like even the outgrow of these products is literally just a part of your life and what you're doing in your life. That's why I love it so much. And I really hope people are paying attention and connecting with it, that we need to create and serve around what we already do and what we already are. It makes it easier on us, you know what I mean? And it makes it something for us to be able that we can do continually, because it's what we do, right? We're not putting on the front. Like, I love to do this. Like me, I love to talk with people. I love to find out about their story and their businesses. And so I love to do this, right? So I can keep doing it, because this is me generally when I'm just on the phone with somebody, right? So, but what is it that, you guys do that you love to do and that you want to, that you say, man, I can serve people in this way, you know what I mean? And really think about that. So, man,
I would always ask our listeners to, what is it that you would do for free that fulfills you? Obviously for me, I would play with my child or play with any children and teach them different things for free, because that's fulfilling for me, because I know in the long run, they won't say that they didn't have, that, whether it's a role or they didn't have that person that was there helping them or taught me that I didn't learn this from, I didn't understand this growing up. So it's always important that we understand whatever it is that we want to do for free, or that we would do for free that fulfills us. And if we're skillful at it, you possibly can make a business or some type of, you can start something out of that. Like I said, I noticed that success was like he engaged with the tablets as we are with our phones. So, the old school saying, "Oh, them kids don't go outside no more. They on the tablets all day. They on it." Okay. And then we have parents that say, "I wish public schools I wish I would have learned this when I was in school." So I just listen to these different things as well as I say it myself. And it's like, okay, well, let's create this. Let's create something that's available on the tablet. So they can still be on the tablet, but at least it's a learning or a resource tool that's going to be able to help them once they put that tablet down and enter the real world.
Right. So now something that you're basically answering your own
solution
essence, right? Exactly. You're bringing the solution. Yeah. Solution. You're right. We got to do that.
We just got to think of more solutions. Whatever a problem is, I say this, let's not make a problem an issue. A problem is good, because on the other end of a problem is a solution. It's just a matter of, are we going to figure out the solution and provide it for others? If it's a problem for everybody, then that's a wealth product or service that you can provide that's going to be able to help the masses. So it's just, are we going to make not necessarily an excuse, but are we going to point out what the problem is, or are we going to listen and actually try to take a second to think, how can I provide a solution to help bridge this gap between the ones that are having what this problem is? Now we can overcome that.
And that's a good point, because at the end of the day, you that's what you see in life, in regular life right now. You know, from the adult standpoint, you definitely see it in the schools. I was substitute teaching a couple of years before, and you know, just kids that you see in general, parents and adults that you see in general, is everybody sees problems, right? But it's almost like there's a lack of being able to come up to, okay, think through the problem, right, and figure out how to solve it, right? But that is like there's a complete gap there of people not being able to solve problems. And it's not just a young kid. That's not just a problem with young kids. That's problem in adults as well. You know what I mean?
I think that's because the distractions, like we said, the phones, the working all the time, we don't have time to sit down and think. You know, that's why we initially get mentors, not necessarily for them to think, but because they've already done it and they lay out a blueprint, they lay out a path to where, okay, rather than us doing trial and error, as long as I'm executing, then I have this mentor, I have this team that I'm working with, I'm a lot more confident in what I'm doing or what it is that I'm trying to pursue. So as long as we make it, it's understood that a problem isn't a bad thing. Let's take the negative term out of problem and just know on the other end of that is a solution. So like when things happen, I have a podcast, the Birth of Success podcast, and the slogan was we educate, demonstrate, educate, and opinionate, because there's a lot of opinions, how to swivel in a time of crisis. So for parents, I have to educate you on different things, such as, well, we talking about stocks. I might give some stock tips or some credit tips, as well as we're talking about current events and, you know, what our opinions are on there. But also we have to demonstrate these things. We can tell our children anything, but if we not demonstrate, if it's not action behind what we saying, now we confusing them. Right. So, and as I know, for me, having a child, it's always a time of crisis, because you just don't know. I don't know if I'm holding them the correct way. I gotta hold the head up, or can he sleep on his stomach, or, you know, can he eat this type of food? I don't know if he allergic. It's just always you kind of like on edge. So I'm building a community where parents can talk, whether it's the old school parents can give us some wisdom, or it's the new school that can provide, you know, and talk amongst each other and say, hey, my toddler is going through this. What are some of the things that y'all may be doing, or what do you find is useful? How am I able to get my child to eat vegetables? What were some of the things that you all did? You know, so that's something that I feel is very important, that we understand that, you know, a problem is not a negative term. It's always now an opportunity for us to find a solution.
And is that community something that you have? Where are you guys meeting at? Where are y'all connecting at?
No, so Spotify, my community is called the Dream Team. This is for entrepreneurs. But like my podcast is on Spotify, Apple Music, and like the great David Shan says, you don't want to stop. It's interesting because I started my podcast on my father's birthday. This was not this past year, last year. And I was shooting at the E-Complex. I was actually shooting my podcast at the E-Complex. And he was watching Success at the times where we were shooting. However, you know, he got sick, had been on dialysis, caused me to stop because I didn't have nobody to watch Success. And just like Shan says, you don't want to stop. Consistency is key. So now, starting as of last week, I just shot another episode. We're going to episode season 2 is about to get uplifted or uploaded now, and I'm not gonna stop. So that's why I always congratulate you. And when I see you all doing it, it's like, bro, you doing such an amazing job. Keep doing what you're doing, because right now it's the early stages. You just working out the kinks, like the things that this was, like I said, before it was any podcast challenge, already knew that I wanted to do a podcast because I
Right.
wanted to
Same
voice
here.
out. I know it's more parents that's in the world that's going through the same thing that I'm going through, or it's people that's thinking about, you know, when they have children, they're going to go through these things. But
Right.
the Birth
Right.
of Success podcast originally, I'm going to tell you a quick story. So
No, go
originally
ahead.
it was for when success get older. Like I have an episode 2 with my grandfather. He was 95 years old at the time. Thank God he's still alive. So he's actually, I think he's 96 now. He may be 97, but he's 96 now. He's still alive. But I wanted to get people that helped raise me and, you know, in my, not just my family, but my neighbors, people that was really close to me that has plenty of wisdom. And so when success gets 9, 10 years old, he's able to hear that same game and understand those same values, even if they may not be here. And like I said,
Right.
with the pandemic, you know, anything can happen tomorrow. Now, tomorrow is not promised. So it's important for all the listeners that may be thinking, start you a podcast, because once you upload it, that information can live on forever.
Yes. Yeah. It's just like
So,
it's just like books. Like that's how I see
yeah.
it. I see the podcast, even, you know, YouTube channels, you know, it's just like books, right? We have information. You know how many people I've heard say, oh, the first book I read when I started my journey was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This man, Robert Kiyosaki, took this information that he received and literally just, he put what he learned, his knowledge, just in written form so that now it can be disseminated so other people can connect with it. But that's the same thing, like you're saying, with the Birth Success podcast, with Lion and Lambo, all these others, is information that people have that they've been blessed with, that they're simply just sharing so that others also can be impacted as well, man. And, you know, we gotta put, and that's why I encourage everybody just to share and just to do it, right? Because, you know, and as our friend in the morning meetup, you know, do it ugly, right? Because at the end of the day, somebody needs to hear what you got. I know there's just something on everybody for some reason that you feel like, well, I don't have anything to share. You know, I know who would listen to me. What, man, you are so
more
unique.
so, I
Your
think that
story is so unique.
Yes, sir. I was about to say that they are more so embarrassed because they feel like they're the only ones going through it, when they don't understand that it's a community that's probably already built, or one that they can start just by expressing what it is that they're going through, whether it's something that they overcome or something that they're in the midst of going through right now. It's always easier when you're going through something together with somebody else than it is if you're going through it alone. And we always say, like, yeah, we're going to be going through it alone. We are going to be going through it alone, especially if we don't tell nobody what we're going through. We can't expect for people, oftentimes, even as a, you know, entrepreneur, feel like, you know, oh, I don't have my friends' support. I don't have this. I don't have that. But it's like, unless you always telling your friends about your business and always promoting your business, you can't expect for them to just be promoting it. Like, I want it to be where now my friends understand, if they talking to me, we gonna be talking. Obviously, I'm gonna ask them how they're doing, and if they have some type of skills, we're gonna try and create a business of their own. Because being a parentpreneur is the objective, or, you know, having your own business, something you can pass down to your children, is the objective. But we cannot be afraid to let people know what it is that we doing and what it is that we stand for. And we can't be mad if they don't support it. They're not obligated to support anything, but at least you expressing what it is, and you're expressing and sharing what it is that you do. So a stranger may support you. But if we don't tell anybody, then, you know, we know what the outcome is going to be. We're going to feel like, oh, nobody wants this, or nobody cares, or, you know, things of that nature. I just feel like always either ask for help or let people know what you got going on, and don't just do it one time. Follow up with them. Like, and if they don't like you, they'll unfollow you.
Right. And you got to think, like, it's what value are you providing for your friends? A lot of times when these situations, we're just thinking about the friends supporting us just because it's us. And that's okay. That's cool. Right. But at the end of the day, you have a certain service that you're providing, or a product that you're providing, right, to the community. And you got to think, well, is my product or service actually beneficial for my friends? Is it actually providing value for them? Because if it doesn't provide value for them, you can't be upset that they're not, connecting with it, right? You know what I'm saying? It may not be, all your friends are not your target audience. That's just the reality, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a perfect point. And that's why I was like, if my friends that didn't necessarily have children, I wouldn't necessarily send them the ebook. But if they have, or I wouldn't necessarily send them the flashcards. But if they, I don't know if they have nieces or nephews, or maybe I do know they have nieces or nephews. So I'll send it to them anyway. I may just, but the thing is, as an entrepreneur, we have to get out of the mindset of we're afraid to communicate. That's one thing I wanted to touch on. Communication is key. As an adult, you'll be surprised how many people are so afraid to pick up a unknown call. Like, if I don't know who it is, I ain't picking up the phone, or I'm afraid to call it. I don't want to go into the bank. I don't want to go into the bank and ask questions, or afraid to ask questions. They have to build their trust with you first, and then they're going to ask you 100 questions. But just random people, we have to teach our children as young. We always don't talk to strangers. Yes, I'm not going to steer away from that. However, let's not make it to where they so afraid and they become super antisocial, and then they grow up wanting to have friends, but they just fail at communicating. They fail at, introducing themselves. They fail at asking for things that they may want. Because on the other end of that ask, it's either what it is that you want or no. So if we teach them at an early age, or even if we unlearn and relearn at our current age, it don't matter if we 55, if we unlearn and relearn and say, okay, it's okay for me to communicate. It's okay for me to say, I love the Lion and the Lambo podcast. Support our brothers and support our sisters. Like, it's nothing wrong with that. And I think
it's true, man.
I think I probably reached out to you first because I said, you know what, you up to something. You up to something great here with, the biblical principles, because it's so important. A lot of things going on in the world, and they try to mix things up. So, and that's why I wanted to be sure, if I had the privilege to come on this podcast, this was going to be one of the ones that I made the time for. I said, whenever. Let me know when.
And I appreciate that, because I've been seeing what you're doing, and I'm so excited when I see. Like I say, it's so. I've been in a position where I've been the people that we're speaking about, right? You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. I've been that person of saying, like, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know the direction I'm supposed to go in, and that's why, like. But all I know is, like, I'm always excited every time I connect with a friend. You can ask my wife, man. My wife will tell you, when I talk to friends, I'm talking about their businesses. It's just like, I'm just excited. I'm happy. I'm just like, okay, what you got going on? Boom, boom, boom. And I just love to see people succeed. I just love to see that success. And that's why I knew, like, okay, this is the lane that I can go into. Because when I hear, like, the only thing I can think about now is, like, in 5 years, my prayer is that I see the success school of the arts, or whatever the name is going to be, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
because
sir.
Like, I see the vision. I'm saying, man, you're right. That's like exactly in the lane of what you're seeking to do. And I can see you doing it, right? Like, I don't think you just like how you talked about you going to Maui for your wedding, and guess where you went for your wedding?
Yeah,
Maui, right? You know what I'm saying? So like, you put that out already.
I've done a few things. I say things like, I've said things when I was younger, and then I think about it, and I was like, I did it.
Yes.
That tells you the power of the mind.
You gotta talk about it. Yes, you gotta say it. You gotta let it out your mouth. You gotta speak. Yeah, man. Yeah.
The key is speak it and then write it down. Take the time to think, how can I actually make this happen? Because everybody is capable of making it happen. We just got to take the necessary time to think.
Yes.
That what they say, common sense. People always talk about common sense, but we say common sense not so common because we always distracted. If we take the time to think, it's like, okay, is this really a good idea? And then you can ask a few people, but do your own research. How many people are going through these same things?
Right,
Okay,
right.
what are some additional products that I can provide that can assist? Because 5 years ago, I wasn't thinking of creating a school or any of these things.
Right.
5 years ago,
Right.
I wasn't thinking. Now I was in real estate investing. So, like I said, always an entrepreneur, always in the space. However, I wasn't thinking of children products. I wasn't thinking,
Mm-hmm.
but because my life has changed, it's like, okay, now I have a target audience. Parents is going through the same thing. We trying to balance, work and home life. How do we balance
Mm-hmm.
these things? We balance it by not making up some life that we not really living. We balance
Right.
it by
Right.
having our children participate in the things that we are doing as well. So it's not always about us going to their extracurricular activities. It may just be them going to the bank with us, them going while we going to handle some business, they going with us, and they not only going, but we telling them why we going here. And then as they get older,
Right.
they gonna
Right.
ask more questions and more questions, and
Yes.
they just become a
Yes.
sponge to it. So when
Yes.
they get older and you say, hey, go in the bank and open up your a bank account, they not asking as a 40-year-old person, what do I need to ask? I need to ask. And there's nothing wrong with asking that. So I don't want, if
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that, but they'll just be a lot more prepared
Mm-hmm.
early on. And that's the key. We always say, if I knew better, I do better.
Yes.
So
Well,
once we know, we got to share it.
your children are the do better. You know what I'm saying? If we knew better, we do better.
We do better.
Your
Yep.
children are the do better. That's the reality. It's just like the statement you made earlier, right? You are the happy. I mean, how do you say it, right? You are as happy as your saddest child, right?
You're only as happy as your saddest child.
You're only as happy as your
So
saddest
you can
child, and
have $1
that's the
million.
reality.
It's I don't know how many people focus on people that they think that's famous and doing these things. Look and see how many of their children might have committed suicide or died. Like they go through a lot of pain as well. So oftentimes we just want to make sure we understand what it is that we praying for, because success don't always look sweet. Success isn't always. I'll say this, and I can relate it to my son. Yes, his name is Success, but when he's sick, I become angry as a parent because it's like it's not much that I feel like I can do, but I'm not in a good mood. So it's the same thing with success. The greater that we elevate, everything is not going to be, as we may imagine it to be. We're going to lose people in the process. We're going to have, betrayal might be in place. It's a part of the journey. That's why we have to enjoy the journey and be in the present. Because all the time parents say, well, I remember when they was in diapers, appreciate them at this age. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying to take full advantage of every day. And even the days where I'm not spending as much time with Success as I usually do, I'm making sure I tell them I love them. I'm hugging them, loving on them, playing with them. Just those, what did you learn today? Or just getting in his world, what you want to do. Like we'll go sit under the kitchen cabinet, whatever it is that he want to do. I'm gonna make sure that I'm spending some time with him because that's my duty as a parentpreneur.
Right.
I'm always a
No,
parent
that's true.
first.
That's true, man. You got to keep the priorities first. You know what I mean? At all times.
Absolutely.
Man, this has been a great conversation, man. Like you shared a lot of gems, a lot of knowledge, man. I definitely have to get you on at some point again in the future. You know what I'm saying? Because
I would love
this
to.
has been
I would
really,
love
really
to.
fire.
Thank
Yeah, man,
you. Thank you.
this
Yes,
has
sir.
been great, man. And I want to just, I'm gonna just take some time just to, like they say, pay some bills, right? Just talk about some, opportunity we got to just sponsor and partner with us on the podcast. But when we come back, just to close it up, right? I want, there's a lot of people out here, they're parents, they're in entrepreneurship, or they're looking to start a business. Can you just maybe give us a couple tips of some things that we can do that we can include our kids, right, as a part of our business? Like how can we do that practically, right? Because some people are hearing and they're saying, I have no idea where to start. I don't know what to do, right? So from the parentpreneur himself, right? You know what I'm saying? Can you just share us a couple tips on how to do that, man? Okay. So I just wanted to let you guys know, man, we actually just came out with some merchandise that's connected with our Tent Makers 101, this biblical entrepreneurship movement that we got going on, man. And we want you to be able to connect with us and be a part of supporting what we're doing here at Lion and Lambo, because it's all about biblical entrepreneurship. It's all about impact and true success. And so we just come out with a line of t-shirts that's just released it on Black Friday weekend, right? Cyber Monday weekend. And so, man, go over to www.lionelmosby.com. You'll be able to go ahead and grab your t-shirts, man, to be able to rock your witness in front of you, right? You know what I'm saying? So that everybody can see what you are. You are a tent maker. You are a biblical entrepreneur. Right now, we have it for, if you get 2 t-shirts, we have it 15% off right now at this time, man. So take advantage of the opportunity to partner with us, because when you partner with us, man, you help us to elevate other biblical entrepreneurs, to get them in front of the world, as well as connect them with the online space that we're connected with on ABN and some of the other online platforms. So again, thank you so much for your support. And again, just holler at us. Go to lionelmosby.com. Grab your t-shirts now. So, man, Sevon, hey, close us out, man. Help us to understand how can we incorporate our children, you know what I'm saying? And maybe that is young children, maybe that is the teenagers, right? How can we incorporate them and make them a part of what we got going on, especially with our businesses?
Okay, so if you're already an entrepreneur, or is this question for just the
Let's say you're already
parent?
an entrepreneur. Let's say you're already an entrepreneur, right? And you're already in business, and right now it's been hard, right? You kind of been separating the two. You haven't seen how you can work together with these two things, right? So how can you now incorporate your children as a part of what you're doing, so you're even able to spend more time with them, right? You know what I'm saying? Because maybe you haven't been spending as much time, and you want to spend time with them.
Yes. Okay. So example, I would say if I already have a business, I want to spend more time with my child, what may be some things that you need a helping hand with, whether it's the mail room, maybe you need somebody just to, put the letters in the envelopes for you and seal the envelopes up. Maybe you just need paper staple, something that can help you save some time. That's not a super heavy task. Now, if your child is into graphics, because I know some children that are amazing when it comes to animations and things of that nature. Maybe you can hire your child as a graphic designer. You spending more time with your child. You can be telling them the concept of your business or what it is that you want, and see what it is that they can provide for you. At the very least, you all are going to be spending time together. For those that may not have a business, just a parent, but you want to start something with your child, I would say this. If you like to cook, or you notice what it is your child is into, let's start some form of YouTube channel. Let's get them on YouTube, either getting reviews. Like, for instance, my sister, shout out to Mila's Cupcakes. She has Lance and Mila's Bacon. So they have a baking show that's on YouTube, because obviously she's a pastry chef. She makes sweets, but he's always seeing her making stuff. So he loves baking as well. So it's just a matter of learning what it is that our children like. And then we always have to cook every day. We have to make something to eat. So many times as we grow older, it's lopsided. The man may be dependent on the woman to cook. We wouldn't have to do that if we teaching our children early on how to make the food. Or so that's just another survival skill that they're able to do. They don't have to necessarily rely on a partner. Yes, I do believe it should be. You should have a partner. Yes, you will need a woman to be able to help you with different things, and a woman will need a man to help you with different things. However, for instance, my dad, he does, the only thing he can make is hot dogs. He call them Jimmy Dean dogs. That's all he can make. But and he can grill, but he's not cooking anything. I was different. My mom taught me. My mom made sure she taught me how to cook stuff, how to rely on my own. Like, I can be able to survive on my own. So I would say that any YouTube shows, or just looking and see what they may like. Maybe they like to draw. Guess what? They got NFTs, introducing them to this NFT space, introducing them to be able to create things that's going to prolong in the future. So that's the one thing I would say for entrepreneurs or for parents that's aspiring entrepreneurs or want to start a business with their child. Hey, in the summertime, springtime, the lemonade stand, like it can start small. The one thing we want to do is introduce.
Don't sleep on it.
Yeah. We want to introduce our children to making money at an early age through business. And then that's how we teach them financial literacy and say, hey, okay, you want to save this percentage. Okay, we need to now get more inventory. We got to buy more lemonade. So we teaching them these small things. So when they become a teenager or when they become a full adult, they're not going through the process that we are going through where we have to, we're like level 1 because we didn't know that growing up. We were just doing without any type of direction or guidance. So that's how you can implement the financial literacy into, whatever business or whatever creation you and your child is coming up with. Because there's a lot of them out there, as well as parents. Pay attention to what your children is doing because they may be showing you the next big thing and you may not know it.
That's true, man. And another thing that made me stand out is like marketing, man. They already own all these platforms, TikTok, IG, all this stuff. Some people bumbling through it. Just tell your child, you know what? Look, here, you know what I'm saying? Just record. You know what I'm saying? Just put it up. Just whatever you think about, right? Just, I give you some different stuff from my specific industry, but this may be just behind the scenes stuff. And that stuff in and of itself may be what actually blow you up in the first place, right? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, like you're saying, making them a part of, I like to think of it like this is the economy. You got to make them a part of the family economy, right? It's like you're saying with the cooking. And, a lot of times we're stressed out. It's because, well, you prepared them to understand that they bring something to the table, right? That they can wash dishes and clean up the kitchen. They can straighten up the living room or vacuum, right? They can cook a meal this evening, right? Because you're getting it but you have to train them.
We have to train them.
We have to train them to provide value, right? You know what I'm saying? To not just always be consumers, but the way we have trained them to be consumers from a financial standpoint, it actually also shows up in the fact that we also train them to be consumers in the family economy standpoint, right? And this is why a lot of times we may be overstressed and overworked because we have teenage kids who we haven't trained to do anything. We haven't trained them to look to see how can they help, right? How can they provide value, right? But then, like you say, we got to be the examples first to actually show that we're always looking to be help and provide value, right? To others in our own home and around our community too as well, man. So
yes, sir. The gamers for the parents that have the children as gamers, because I know when I was younger, like we was a gamers, but it wasn't more so a profession as it is now. And if you realize like Twitch and all of these different streaming platforms are so huge due to gaming. So let's not condemn what it is that our children are doing. Let's see how we can implement, okay, oh, you like this game or Grand Theft Auto or let's not say Grand Theft Auto, let's say Madden, John Madden. Okay, EA Sports, we can invest in that. We can invest stock into this since you like this so much. Maybe you want to become a gamer. Okay, let's teach you how to, let's see if we can invest in learning how to create our own video games. Like ownership. Being a parentpreneur is all about ownership because ownership can be passed down to your children.
Yeah, man. That's a great place to end it right there, man.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you for coming on and for sharing. Can you let the people know how can they get in contact with you if they're trying to get access to these flashcards? Like, where do they go? Like, where do they go?
Yes. So if you want any of our digital products or any of our learning resource tools, it's www.fatherofsuccess.com. If you're a parent or just an adult that needs some help with your credit, you can go to just the letter IC Success, SUCCESS Solutions.com. So ICSuccessSolutions.com in regards if you need any help or assistance with your credit. I'm currently running a special for credit, as well as I'm running a special for the financial literacy flashcards at this time. So, matter of fact, if you message me and tell me that you're coming from the Lion and the Lambo podcast, or you're a listener from the Lion and the Lambo podcast, I'm going to provide you it for 50% off. So I'm gonna provide
That's
my
awesome,
services for 50% off.
Hey, y'all need to get access to that, man, because let me tell you, the man start naming all of these ladders back to back to back with some numbers attached to them, a couple periods in between. And I was out here like, this man speaking law code out here, right? You know what I mean? But hey, he's well read, okay, and understands what he's doing. He's done it for himself, for his family. He's done it for others, man. And so I know there's many people out there, and we're going to connect, man, because I said, I deal with a lot of people and clients who need help in that arena, especially dealing with credit. So we're definitely going to connect, man, off here so that we can work together. And so we can help some other people and impact some other people to get them to the point they want to be as well. So again, we thank you so much for joining us. Again, for all y'all who are listening, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening in. And like we say every time, now we want you to take this information and go impact the world yourself. We'll see y'all later.